Hey there, thanks for watching the Fanboy Cantina. If there's one thing YouTube does not need, it's yet another Deadpool and Wolverine review. Nonetheless, wanted to have a conversation with you. What did you think about that movie? So, first, we're going to go spoiler free. It's really hard to talk about this movie at this point without getting into the spoilers. So, we're going to do the warning when it's the right time about the spoilers, but let's get started. All right. So, spoiler free, directed by Sean Levy. Deadpool and Wolverine stars Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. This is the third of the Deadpool movies, or the fourth appearance of Deadpool when you add in X Men Origins Wolverine. I had so much fun with this movie. It's fast, irreverent, and funny from end to end. If you're a fan of the raunchy humor and the bloody, if not gruesome, action of the first two Deadpool movies, you'll really enjoy this movie. The movie works because of the chemistry between Reynolds and Jackman. And you can see Reynolds' love for the Deadpool character, his knowledge of the Marvel lore. I'm glad, though I haven't seen, the MCU is back or the welcome to the MCU Deadpool, kind of clickbait headlines, despite the film breaking all kinds of box office records over the weekend. Because in reality, with this movie, it's a love letter to the Fox Marvel film anthology. If you're able to go to this movie without knowing any of the cameos, that's really great and frankly kind of impressive at this point because internet. Yeah, even if you do know these cameos, I think it will still be so much fun to see these characters on the screen. I will say, after rewatching Deadpool 1 and 2, as much as the recency effect is at work, Deadpool and Wolverine is probably the most rewatchable, but Deadpool 1 for me is still the better story. With that first Deadpool movie, it's contained, clear, and probably a more budget friendly story, but there's a lot of heart in it. Deadpool 2 is, not my favorite of the three, but certainly a lot of fun with Josh Brolin's Cable. I've always felt though that there's like maybe a scene or two missing, move the story forward in a more seamless way. But with Deadpool and Wolverine, it's Deadpool in the multiverse. So the stakes are out of this world, apocalypse kind of stuff. But really, when you look at the heart of it, it's the two of them together. It's the consequence, though, is that some of those characters, side characters that you knew and loved from the first two movies, they don't get a lot of screen time here, unfortunately. But what you do get between Wolverine and Deadpool, it is quite special. So, my recommendation, absolutely see this in the theater. See it in a packed theater if you can, with a lot of people, or even if you just get a bunch of your friends and watch the movie, you'll have such a great time because I really enjoyed it. All right. That's about as non spoiler as I can make this in talking about the movie. So, this is your one and only warning. The spoilers are going to start right now. Deadpool and Wolverine works on so many levels. The fight scenes and the humor are so much fun. Do the jokes always land? No. Does the music always work for me? No. Does Wolverine's bones make for awesome nunchucks for kicking TVA ass? Heck yeah, it's awesome, right? It's so grisly and irreverent, and you got NSYNC and the dance moves, and I loved every second of that sequence. And there's a formula for superhero movies. At some point, the two heroes are going to fight each other because that's what you do. And here it happens, I think, at least a couple of times, and it's awesome to see Wolverine and Deadpool fight each other. The fight at the end, where you get to see the Deadpool Corps against Wolverine and Deadpool, I love that moment where they're flying out of the bus. That was just spectacular. I was like, oh my goodness, we're seeing this. And it was just so great. Now, we did post on the community tab here. What did you think of the movie? What did you think of Deadpool and Wolverine? And, I understand there's a criticism that, some people didn't love the movie. And I get that. There is that point of view that with Logan, Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, both of them had an end in that movie and, a powerful conclusion for their story. I can understand, the feelings with Patrick Stewart coming back and Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Magnus, and of course Hugh Jackman here. I can understand that, but that's it. I don't feel like Hugh Jackman appearing here diminishes Logan in the least. Let's talk about the cameos. All right. So Daphne Keene, Chris Evans, Jennifer Garner, Channing Tatum, and Wesley Snipes are absolute highlights. How awesome was it with that turn with Chris Evans, where you think he's going to say one thing, instead it's flame on. That was absolutely wonderful. It's not just cameos for the sake of cameos, because they each advance the story forward. Beyond that, it speaks to Reynolds and his character as a person. The two most important, I think, and meaningful ones are Wesley Snipes and Channing Tatum. With Wesley Snipes, let's not forget, Reynolds was in Blade Trinity with Snipes, and there was much made about Snipes and his experience on the set, his behavior on the set, all of that. So to have him appear here, it was a total shock. And from the interviews, since then, we understand that the two of them actually get along. And it was apparently Reynolds' idea for Wesley Snipes to come back here. So to have him come back was absolutely stellar. Seeing him fight on the screen again, he's still got it. If Mahershala Ali were to bow out of a new Blade movie, I'd be all in for a fourth Wesley Snipes Blade film. But really, the one that hit most is Channing Tatum. Yeah, he was supposed to be Gambit. He appeared in Hall H years ago at San Diego Comic Con. Expectations were high. No doubt that he was excited about it, and it never happened. And there's no indication that it will ever happen at this point. So it has to, at a human level, hurt, because you have those expectations when stuff doesn't happen, it hurts, right? So to give Tatum this moment where he can put on the costume, have his moment, have a really awesome fight sequence, it was such a gift. It was a gift for us as an audience, but a gift for him as a person. And you could feel the fun that Tatum is having through the screen. See, by including these characters, he really puts together a love letter to them as characters, but also to the actors themselves. I would have loved to have seen, Ray Park come back as Toad, or Kelly Hu as Lady Deathstrike. And anybody from the more recent X-Men movies, that would have been cool. But, I get it. To a degree, if they went too hard into it, if they had everybody come back, it would have been, certainly fun, but it would have been, too much. And it's like this, nostalgia tour. By selectively picking these actors in these roles, I think it has more meaning to it. For us as fans, it's just a character on the screen, right? But for them as actors, there's that element of, hope and expectation that, doesn't happen when those stories don't get to continue. So having this moment for them to appear, it's not just a cameo. It's a moment to show the love for these characters, give them conclusions, or for that matter, because we're now in the MCU, it may actually prompt new beginnings for these actors to play in these roles again in some capacity. The Deadpool movies really only exist because of Reynolds and his own passion for that character. He turned that passion into creating this Deadpool character on screen. And it's hard to imagine that this was ever greenlit as an R-rated movie for the very first Deadpool movie. So there's so much of his passion for Deadpool, for Marvel, and the actors in every fiber of this film. I also really loved that montage of all the different Wolverines. I'm not a Wolverine expert, but I've read enough comics where I do remember the different versions of Wolverine across the comics. So it was a thrill to see the different versions on the screen. Henry Cavill in the role, that was really cool for that brief moment. That was another highlight. Another highlight, as well as the sequence that appears during the end credits. So to have those behind the scenes clips, you can see the fun that the actors had in making those movies. For years, I would have told you that X-Men 2 was one of the best superhero movies ever made. By today's standards, it's looking a little bit dated, but it was truly special at that time. I enjoyed the Fantastic Four movies for the most part, at least the first one. And, there was that little known actor named Chris Evans at the time playing the Human Torch. So it's really wonderful that, that end credit sequence is there just to remind about, the love that went into creating those movies and the actors that played in those roles. There's a lot of mature kind of themes to this movie, and you could take even what I just said about endings and being able to be reborn again or having a proper farewell. And you can apply that to anything really in one's adult life. There's another kind of adult theme about wanting to matter, that wanting to matter story that drives Deadpool in this movie because it's really about what you may bring to it. Everybody wants to matter. You do matter, right? But it could be about acceptance or recognition. And I think, there's a little bit of that, looking at your own life about, you might wish that something worked out differently or, somebody saw you in a different way or, the wind blew the other way and, something else happened. And so when things don't happen or don't work out, or you're struggling to figure out, where's your place, where's your center, how do you matter? There can be that feeling of uncertainty or loss or longing, right? Now, you could watch this movie and just take it completely superficially. That Deadpool wanted to be in the Avengers, didn't happen. Deadpool sad, gotta find. You could take it that way, but I think it's a lot deeper than that. And there's a review that Winston Marshall did, and we'll have a link up here to his review. He speaks about his own personal journey and what he brought to that part of the story. Highly recommend checking out Winston Marshall's review. Now, the movie is not without criticism, but I think they are generally minor. I thought Paradox was a better and more compelling villain than Cassandra Nova. You have two villains here, right, in this movie. I would have liked to have maybe spent a bit more time or had more story, or maybe I don't know, something was missing for me with Cassandra Nova to have some kind of better understanding of why is Charles Xavier's unknown twin so different from Charles Xavier. Maybe it's a nature over nurture or kind of thing, or whatever it is. That's kind of how it's explained. But it would have been nice to spend maybe a little bit more time with her, because it does end up being this really quick and abrupt turn of now I'm gonna figure out how am I going to get this MacGuffin and destroy all of the timelines and only the void exists. It seems like it's a bit of a leap of how that happens. I was glad for the Deadpool core appearance. It's kind of like the inverse of Avengers Endgame, where the Avengers all assemble right at the end. Instead, you got all of the Deadpools at the end. It is a bit of fan service, but yeah, I was fine with it. I was fine with the fan service. It was cool. There's a couple of times where the music doesn't work for me. The Grease song, "You're the One I Want," it didn't work for me so much in that fight scene in the car. Sometimes the jokes don't really work. Dogpool, I thought was funny the first time. Second time was kind of done. Third time, yeah, it's maybe a little bit tired, but it's. I mean, these are small things. Overall, I was laughing end to end throughout this movie. So I do think that this movie is the most rewatchable. I am excited to see it again in the theater. I don't have my tickets yet, but I'm hoping to see it again this upcoming weekend. And I think that still that Deadpool 1 is the better told story, but this one is just so much fun. There's so much of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman and their love for each other and their love for their characters in this movie. And so I do recommend seeing this movie in the theater. I would not wait until you see it on this, Disney Plus or whatever the heck it is. So that's it. That was a lot of talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. Again, I want to hear from you. What did you think of the movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you somewhere in between? Post in the comments. Would love to hear your thoughts about Deadpool and Wolverine. What was your favorite cameo? Would love to hear from you. All right. Thanks so much for watching. As always, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Fanboy Cantina.